Pickens County Council mid-month meeting of Monday, July 20th, 2026. First item up is invocation in the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor Claiborne.
Thank you. Tonight I'm reading something called the 9 Prayers submitted by one of my constituents who practices the Buddhist faith. May we be peaceful, happy, and light in body and spirit. May we be free from injury, and may we live in safety. May we be free from disturbance, fear, anxiety, and worry. May we learn to look at ourselves and others with the eyes of understanding and love. May we be able to recognize and touch the seeds of joy and happiness in ourselves. May we learn to identify and see the sources of anger, fear, craving, and delusion in ourselves. May we know how to nourish the seeds of joy in ourselves every day. May we be able to live fresh, solid, and free. May we be free from attachment and aversion and not be indifferent. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, before we get started, I'm going to turn to Jessica for a minute. You're going to talk a little bit about, we put speakers in this room and all they actually work.
Yes, sir. There are speakers now at the back of the room that will hopefully help to project the sound from behind you as well as the sound from our council members up front. I'm getting a thumbs up from the back. They must be working appropriately. We hope that this helps make everyone's experience in the room a little easier to understand because we also want people to hear online, but we don't want to neglect the people at the back of this room.
Okay, what about the council chambers? Is there any work going on there too to make this a little bit better or not?
Yes, the IT office is currently looking at options for our council chambers and exploring what we could do to make that sound system work better as well. I know that we do frequently have people say that they have a hard time hearing what is said. So in addition to everyone who is speaking as part of the meeting, hopefully projecting, we're going to work on the sound system and make it easier for everyone in the room to hear and those who listen to our meetings online.
Okay, thank you. So one step at a time on that. We're going to get there eventually. Okay, first item up is going to be A. It's a second reading of the development standards for hotels and solar farms. So let's start with the solar farms. I'm going to look to Allison, who's filling in for Mr. Roper tonight. Solar farms presentation that came from the Planning Commission. What are your thoughts on it?
If you don't mind, I'm also going to invite Cindy Hancock to the table with us as she's been in the meetings with the Planning Commission and like to give a little bit more insight than I can. But basically, this one's gone through a couple of different updates, some staff comments that they took to heart and updated and very closely follows state law. So as staff, we do not have any issues with the way it's presented.
You're okay with it too?
Yes, so most of what they're presenting is from state law.
Okay, so that was actually Ron Christian, the Planning Commission, I think, did most of the work on that.
Yes.
So he's a retired corporate attorney, and it shows. He did very good job on that. So, Council Linville, this is a goal of yours. What are your thoughts?
Sorry, my computer decided now was the time that I needed all new passwords and security. So I'm going to try to do this from what I had pulled up before. Let's see. I had a couple questions about this. Thank you for the work. It looks great. The main reason I asked for this is I'm actually very pro solar energy, and I would like to see more uses of solar energy. But when you don't have anything in the UDSO, that means anybody who comes in could ask for a solar farm, and we'd have no ability to say no or give them rules unless we've already written them. So I appreciate y'all doing the work. We need something in writing. So I guess my first question is, why do we care if it's successful or not? Like there's language in there, like if it's not producing up to a certain capacity, and they would have to turn into us their capacity every year. And I was just curious why we do that.
That I believe they spoke about just a little bit. And they are more concerned with the decommissioning efforts.
Yes, which is good.
So if it's not performing at a certain point, then that's whenever they want to move towards that decommissioning efforts.
So just to make sure that they don't just get abandoned, start
Yes.
to go bad. Okay,
Mhm.
so that's to keep the production honest, that if they're not working, that they need to start the decommission.
Yes.
Okay. I noticed it had a required setback from, it had some required setbacks in it, but it didn't specifically mention riparian setbacks. Would any solar farms be subjected to the rest of the UDSs with no insult? Like, is it assumed that this is a building like all others that would have to follow a riparian setbacks, or do we need to say that separately?
Yeah, so it would still have to follow that 50-foot riparian setback.
Okay. There are two changes I wanted to make. First of all, I was researching fence height, and apparently from like the National Electricity Council and a couple other places have a 7-foot minimum on height. And I even found like companies that build these fences all start with an assumption that it's at least 7 feet. So our 6 feet felt small. So if we could change that to 7 feet, if anybody, that's one change I'd like to.
Well, I think what I could do is, my thinking is it's pretty far along. We could do a second reading tonight. And then you could sit down with the staff. Maybe if you want to go look at a couple model policies, like it sounds like you're doing that. And then just come up with a version between you and staff. Maybe get Ron Christian in there too, just at least let him get a look at it. And then August 17th, we'll see your new draft, Council Limbo.
Okay.
And then on September 8th, hopefully we'll be ready for third reading. Does that sound like the schedule?
Yeah, if I had something I know that I want to add, should I say that now, or are you saying?
No, you can say it now, but I mean, unless anybody has a real strong accent right here with this, I don't. I mean.
Okay.
I have a question about it, but no.
Okay, so just finish your.
Okay. My main concern from my understanding of solar farms is, and the nature of Pickens County, this would probably be in a place that's either industrial or rural. But if it ends up being in a rural place, I don't want this to be disruptive to what's around it. And one of the main ways you can work around that, there's two main things, is one, there's a concept of a wildlife permeable fence. And y'all had language of these scary like prison fences, which I get where that comes from, but you can build fencing that allows wildlife to go through it so that we're not building some big walled facility that would be disruptive to what's around it. So if you could please look into this concept of wildlife permeable fencing. I found a ton of stuff on it online. I would rather see some of that language than the barbed wire requirement. And the other is there's a couple states that have requirement on what you plant around them, being like non-invasives, potentially pollinators. You can get some nice stuff growing around them that's beneficial as opposed to harmful, and prevents erosion, which is we've been talking about erosion a lot around here. And so making sure that nobody can come in and clear cut and then put in, non-native grasses and leave it problematic. If you could see, I know Illinois has some laws, but if you could look into some stuff about how we can keep these as least disruptive to wildlife as possible, I would appreciate it.
Okay, Council Bowers, you have a question?
Yeah, that same section, I believe it's section 8, talking about fencing. I understand what she's saying, but at the end of the day, I don't care if it's 6 feet, 7 feet, 10 feet. By the same token, I don't like that it says razor wire, barbed wire in there. I think the spirit of having a fence is the spirit of having a fence. If someone that wants to build a solar farm feels the need to have razor and barbed wire, so be it. But I don't know what a benefit to the county or to the residents of the county would be to have razor and barbed wire across.
So not require that?
Yeah.
Okay. Council Lindell, just put that in your.
Yeah, I think
list.
it's a safety thing, so you can electrocute yourself, but I think that's on the company. If the company chooses it, I don't want to require it.
Big safety thing.
Okay. Council Lang?
Yeah, I didn't see anything about the environmental impact. These solar farms, these panels are, in what I've been able to read, there's a lot of chemicals that leach into the ground from the rainwater and stuff like that. So what are we going to do to mitigate harm to the ground and the environment around these farms?
Yeah, I've read. My understanding is that most of the issues are how you dispose of them. I don't know much issues while they're going, but that's right. The disposal information is really important, and that's what a lot of the other counties are coming, to make sure that they have a way to get rid of them.
Yeah, I've read
This problem.
about the leaching from the chemicals in the panels and rain.
So what I would do is come up with something that you could give them, and Council Linville and this planning staff come up with, something that they're comfortable with, and just try to get Ron Christian in the loop, maybe send them a copy. And then we'll just go from there. I mean, like I said, it looks pretty close to me.
Yeah.
So, so that's schedule set. You have any questions, Councilman?
Dude, who is the performance rating? Who do they report that to?
I would assume that would be the State Public Service Commission.
So that's an industry standard. If you've got a solar farm, you have to provide yearly what this thing's doing and producing.
That's my understanding. Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion for this for second reading as it's presented, with the idea that staff and Council Linville is gonna work together on this. Council Lane's gonna give some input. We're gonna discuss this in a work session on August 17th. We'll be able to discuss all those conditions. And then hopefully in September, this is not part of my motion, but hopefully in September we'll have a third reading on it. So my motion is to actually accept this for second reading as presented tonight. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that? The hope is if we can get that done by September 8th, it will not be part of the moratorium if we have to extend it. That's the hope there. Okay, those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign, passes unanimously. The next item up is going to be hotels, and that was, what is the plan, staff, think on that proposal that came from planning commission?
I think overall we felt it was a little too broad in the language used. It had some disconnects with our short-term rental ordinance that already exists that regulates some of these things. We had some concerns with the definition. We have a staff definition that we would prefer to use, and I think Planning Commission was actually favorable to just get put in the draft. But we certainly don't want to regulate individual rooms and require them to be on 5 acres of land. So we have a concern with the distance required away from rivers, lakes, reservoirs, and wetlands. A quarter mile seems a bit extreme for that usage, so we would like to look at something different there.
So it needs work. Okay.
We would like to spend more time on it.
Okay.
Yes.
It's your goals, Igor. Hey.
Yeah, I've read it. I think it's a good start, but I do think we need to probably look at it a little closer in some areas.
So how about we hold off on second reading on that one? And Council Wallace, you work with staff on this,
I will.
and hopefully the 17th, you guys have something closer. Maybe a short period of time, but we do that. Does anybody have any questions about that, where that stands right now? Or are we just going to pass on that one tonight?
So any questions or concerns we have about it, we should just message Counselor Wallace.
You
before-
can just, you have them right now.
Or Allison.
Okay.
Do you have questions now?
Well, I think when she was saying about the definitions, I had questions about how this would apply or not to Airbnbs, to B&Bs, like a property that had maybe 5 rooms and used it as a house. Does that apply? There's people in Pickens County who have yurts and tree houses. Does that apply? So a lot of questions about definitions there. And then I also was wondering where they came up with, got to be a quarter mile away from water. I think puts you out of Pickens County, but yeah, those were my main concerns.
Okay. So we're going to, the staff and Council Wallace going to work on that. If anybody wants to chime in as well, they're working on that with the goal of the 17th of August to get something that's got a bit more shape to it.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. I'd recommend for the record, if we, since it's listed as one, solar farms and hotels, we would just make a motion to separate the two, just because we've passed second reading on hotels. I don't want the record to show as if we've gone ahead and passed it on on solar farms. I don't want the record to show that we've already gone ahead and passed it on hotels as well.
So what would you like me to say?
Just make a motion to separate hotels, to amend the agenda to separate hotels from second reading, and get a second, and then I think we'll be able to fix it on the record.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we separate the question of hotels and solar farms and hold off on voting on the hotel portion of the ordinance till a later date.
Okay,
I'll second that.
second, any discussion on that? So
Thanks, Joe.
we just vote on that and we're good to go?
Yeah, we're good. Because it's just one, I wanted to let the record say that it was separate.
All right, that sounds good. Okay, any discussion on that? Those in favor, raise your right hand. Same sign. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's done. So that item,
Before we move on, is the 17th a reasonable timeline for us to get together and notice things?
Yeah, I think we have a
yeah.
pretty good
and
staff.
That's not second read, that's not gonna be second read.
Yeah.
It's just gonna be, okay, this is where we're at.
Well, there's just a lot going on right now.
Okay.
Agreed.
All right,
We have a pretty good
managing
head start.
Okay, so next item is 2B, it's the first reading of Lake Hartwell overlay. And that's gonna be Council Linville, that was a goal you set.
Yes.
What's going on there?
Well, I'm going to ask for a motion here for first reading, but only so that I understand if this council wants to allow me to work with staff to start working on this. I am by no means ready to have an overlay for Lake Hartwell. It came up because if the point of the Jocassee and Kiwi overlay is water protection, we should say something about Hartwell because they literally feed into each other. So in order to be consistent about water protection, we need to do something on Hartwell. However, Hartwell is different because it's already got Corps of Engineer protection. So I would like to pass a first reading just so that we can talk to staff and get people involved on some research of the core property. We've also started getting public feedback, possibly at a feedback session. Just want to be able to officially start that concept. I am not sure that we are anywhere close to when we would ever get to second reading soon, because I do have a lot of concerns on it. So that's what I'm asking for today is first reading so we can start looking into it. But I do not plan to, at this point, I would not cut and paste the Jocassee Kiwi overlay onto Hartwell, so it becomes a separate issue.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion for first reading and title only for Lake Hartwell overlay.
Yes, second.
Second, any discussion or questions?
Yeah, I did have some questions about what the consequences of an overlay are for us legally. And I would want to ask you that, but I don't know this is an appropriate situation for that.
Sure. No, I think if you have a question on legal implications regarding the overlay, it's certainly a discussion that I want to have with y'all, but I would recommend us have that in an executive session. And so I would implore any of you to make the proper motion to go and do that. But I don't feel comfortable giving any public legal recommendations on lake overlay.
Right. Okay. So
So we can do that.
yeah, I'll make after we vote on this, I'm going to make a motion on that.
The only other thing I'd say is if we're discussing water protection and all the things, and I understand that was the spirit of the first ordinance, whether we do each individual or what, and I think that's where I have anxiety is every body of water having its own particular overlay. And I said that at the beginning, but as I said many times, the Saluda is where the city of Easley drinking water comes from and many, many others. So if it's all under the spirit of protecting our drinking water sources, then I think we ought to include it all and not, but at a minimum, include the Saluda because that's the other large body of water in our county.
I'm not opposed to that idea either. I'm just not sure. As cumbersome as this Jocassee Kiwi Lake overlay has quickly become, I'm not sure if we need to, each lake's individually unique and governing body like with the Army Corps or combined utility with Saluda and Duke with Jocassee and Kiwi. But I do agree, if we're gonna do it, we need to do it for all the major bodies.
I agree also. Can we do it as an amendment? I mean, we can just amend and add to the current document, right?
Or aren't
Versus-
they different in the sense?
I think a river is going to have a very different overlay language than a lake would.
Yeah, it's like rivers and streams over there.
Did you not say that rivers and streams are governed by,
Their waters are the
Federal?
The state.
So
federal or state?
State, absolutely, sometimes.
Well, federal, federal, and
What's the word for that? It's not, because you guys gave a recommendation on that. What was the wording you used on that? It's called the salute is different than the lake. What you call it?
outstanding waters.
That was something different.
Maybe.
I think,
Water
Chris,
to the
you said-
state,
you
outstanding
told me
water to
something.
the state. I think you figured out with 3 of them, the 3 lakes, what they're called.
A watershed overlay.
Oh, yeah,
That's
the
different.
watershed. Yes.
That's going to be
different.
streams and rivers and then
That would be extensive.
extensive. Yeah. You're talking about,
So that's what we've got with like the Illinois watershed.
Yes.
So
There'll be
Highway
multiple
8.
throughout.
Yeah, we have several.
and I would even think with the salute.
Yeah, there's.
I don't know. I
That's
think,
what-
I think we need to research.
That's what I think they did.
But I hear what you're saying.
So my whole point is if it's all about protecting our drinking water and our water quality and all the things we've heard time and time again, then it really, we're coming up with minimals. They all are governed and regulated by someone other than us anyway, at some level. That doesn't change. And, you know, I think that if the spirit truly is protecting our waterways, then that's what we should try to do. And,
Makes
especially
sense.
around pollution.
Yeah, but you do realize that a watershed overlay is different than a lake overlay. I mean, a watershed overlay could conceivably take much longer because you've got rivers and streams and creeks.
Mhm.
And I just, man,
And we did do.
we're already 8 months. You're already 6 months into
Or the
it.
lake.
But the river feeds it. Yeah, but my point is that if we're gonna protect, we gotta protect. But I understand what you're saying, but if we're gonna protect our waterways, that's, should be the focus of all of this.
Well, I think you can just do that in due time. I mean, why don't we focus on the lakes first, which is not as extensive, and then if you want to make it a goal in January when this is done, I'm not opposed to it. It's just I'm saying if you lump them all together, one you can do in 6 months, and the other one takes 24 months. Why would you lump them together? Just work on them separately. It's a whole different skill set, I would imagine, for to do a watershed overlay.
I think there's a lot of research that we need to do. I think it's going to be a lot more involved. It's because of the fact it's rivers, creeks. And,
From the expression
Be a lot
on
more
your
involved.
face, I think you're saying this is gonna be really involved.
A watershed
Yeah.
would absolutely, and I would want the assistance of specialized
Consultants.
consultants on that project, absolutely.
Who created the watersheds we have now? Us or the state or?
It's all
Well, I
different.
know that.
Yeah, they're all different. So,
And I'm guessing soil and water conservation has a big
yes,
part in this
Yes.
as well.
extensive. Yeah.
And our UDSO does have riparian buffers that we made much more protected. So we have done some work to protect runoff, erosion, disruption of vegetation stuff along all of our major bodies of water. Already,
Yes.
that was in the UDSO.
Okay, any discussion on that? First reading and title only for the Lake Hartwell overlay. Those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously, right? No, you voted against it, so that was 5-1. Okay.
Chairman?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add to executive session legal advice on lake overlays.
Okay, I'll second that. Any discussion on that? Is that okay,
That's
Attorney?
okay.
You prepared for that discussion?
I can be, I'm ready on it.
Okay, advice on lake overlay. That's gonna be item B, 3B. Any discussion on that? Those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. That one passes unanimously. Okay. Next up is gonna be C1. Here we have a bunch of DSO goals. We've heard a lot from the community about the DSO, and we are actually jumping in with both feet. So different councilmen have different goals in these areas. And we're going to just talk about right now in this meeting, just a path to get there and how we're going to go about it. And anybody has any questions? So I'm going to kick my goal off, which was review minimum lot sizes with requirements for properties outside subdivision. So this was section 403 to 407 of the DSO. Now, trying to just understand if I'm in the right place, given what the goals I have. It's not homes that are in open space subdivisions, correct?
No.
403 to 407. Okay, is it one-off homes?
It would be one-off homes up to 9 lots for a conventional subdivision.
Okay, so it's basically the one-off home versus a conventional subdivision, which we limit it to 9 only. Okay, so that's yes for that. Now, if you live in a subdivision now, and you have a lot, and there's a house not built on it, and you go to build a home, changing 403 to 407 in any way, does it affect that?
If it's platted, it would be a lot of
It would-
right?
Yes, it would be a lot of record. However, setbacks or frontages are changed.
They would have to meet those.
So even if
So
it's
the lot
not, even if
size
it's not a
itself.
conventional subdivision, let's say it's an open subdivision, and I change 403 to 407, would it affect that lot?
It would be pre-existing non-conforming. However, if like setbacks change, then that would.
So it wouldn't affect the
Well, I'm
lot.
not gonna change setbacks. All I'm doing is changing minimum lot size and width.
If it's
That's all I'm-
if it's a current platted lot, then it would be pre-existing non-conforming.
So that means
So any
it wouldn't
changes
affect,
would not
it
apply.
wouldn't affect. So that's already, plat's already done, it's approved. If the houses have been built on it for 10 years, there's one lot there. Now, changing 403 to 407 is not gonna affect. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Now, 403 to 407, that's houses, one lot houses up to 9 in a conventional subdivision, septic or sewer, because that's both in there, right?
Right.
Yes. So my question on this is, and this is going to go to the DSO committee. It'll probably be on the back end of what the DSO committee has, but I would be curious what Anderson and Greenville and Oconee are doing with their equivalent 403 to 407. We can see that.
I do know, so the smallest for sewer for Greenville County, 6,000 square feet. That's their minimum lot size. And then Anderson has 14,500.
Yeah, but I just want to see that paperwork. So just if you can get that for us. So when we're in that committee.
14,500? Double Greenville's?
Yeah, so I would just like to see that.
Mhm.
That's all for that item. Unless anybody has any questions about that, item C1.
What is your goal?
My goal is to look at the minimum lot size of one-off houses, particularly that are on septic tanks. Because I know Greenville and Anderson have raised those.
So you're by looking at them, you want to increase the minimum?
I don't know
lot
what
size?
I want to do. I just want to look at it. Okay, I want to see what everybody else is doing. That's the first thing.
Okay.
Okay. That's why I said I wanted to look at 403 to 407. And probably look at just the minimum lot size as well as the width. You know, because a lot of times you'll see something that's, we had this issue with Stevens Road, I remember, where you had the minimum width was like, I don't know, let's say 30 feet. They were like half acre lots, so they were like 30 feet wide and like 10 miles
It's
deep.
really, really long.
Yeah, and it's just, maybe there needs to be some kind of ratio there. Because they don't want to build a new road, right? So what they do is they give everybody this on the road, but if it's a half acre minimum, it just runs back like a railroad. So I just wanted, there should be a ratio on that. Maybe other counties are doing that. I don't know, because that was a complaint. I mean, that goes back to Stevens Road, actually, which was in my district.
So long lots are bad?
A lot that is, when you have a minimum lot size of, let's say, half an acre, and the minimum road width is 30 feet, that would be 30 times, well, I don't know, maybe, is it 800? I don't know if I'm doing the math right. I mean, that's what Stevens Road was looking like. And I remember saying, when there were people complaining about that I would look at that again. And that's the purpose, just to look at it, see what's
I would caution that an unintended something happening because of this, I don't want to hinder anybody from being able to build a home. And, you know, every piece of property is different. If they were all rectangles, it'd be a whole lot easier to to deal with. I just want to be careful not to do something that's gonna hinder anybody being able to build their home.
Okay, next item up, any other questions about that? Okay, next item up is 2C. It's a proposed revisions to a development area map for District 4, and that's Council Scott Lane. That was your bill.
So I handed out information to everybody at the last meeting. Just want to move the requirement up to 1 acre. And so what, outside of changing the table, is there any other language in the UDSO that we have to have on here? We got to do a 60-day review or something like that? Does it take 60 days to review that?
To change the development area?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That's a
With
tricky
it-
one.
With it being in.
It would be a text amendment,
amendment.
section 5, so yes.
Well, actually,
Well, it's just the table, though, right? Section 5. I didn't see any
There's a-
wording. It's
Because
There's a
505H.
list where it talks about density, about the specific area you're in and what the requirement is.
so, but if he changed the light green to the 1 acre minimum, he's not changing anything in 505. He's just changing that map.
He's getting rid of an entire zone.
He's just,
Changing the map, but there's text related to the map.
is there? Is he changing that text? Or is he just saying that map is going to go from light green to dark blue?
Yeah, but the definition of the area is gonna change, which will be a text change.
Yeah, but that's on the map,
It's also in the description.
is it?
That's a gray area there.
I would say
In
if
505H, I mean,
if
in the
there's
table,
not
it has the
a
description of
community
it.
center area
That's what I
anymore,
printed
then
out and gave to
you
everybody
take
last.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
it's 505B, where it says open space subdivision shall use the following ratio of open space, and it breaks down the percentages. And then somewhere else, there's minimum acres listed too.
I think the chairman was arguing that
When we're
the
taking-
language is not changing, just the picture, and the picture is the appendices that is referenced throughout. So I think if both sides of this argument is correct, you're right, it's completely correct. You can change the map, and you're not changing anything but an appendix. But if the appendix change has a major effect, so the spirit behind it would be it would need to read with input, but the legality behind it, and you're the attorney, not me, would be that you could change the appendix, because we're not changing any language.
I agree with him, actually. Because what you're doing is you're just changing the map. The map is just going to change that color.
Why would it be bad to wait 60 days?
Well, because I want to find out what the rule is and follow it. Okay. So let's just, it's, I don't think it's gray. I mean, I think if you're not changing the text of 505, which again, you said we would change the text?
You would as a result of the map change, because community center would disappear.
But it could reappear. It could reappear. It's just a category. It's a category that could reappear tomorrow if he says, hey, I want community. So it's just to change that, but not change wipe out community.
I'd appreciate an opportunity to look at it in depth and provide y'all with an email in the morning on what exactly it means, but I've been leaning towards that this map is an amendment, but I'll be happy to send y'all an email with citations specifically related to it before y'all kind of go more in depth in it, but just so we don't spin our wheels about it.
Can I ask another question about the
Sure.
map? Since this map was developed, Central annexed a bunch of land into the town of Central, which I think, I'm not sure, but I think it got rid of most of the gateway.
Almost entirely. There are still spaces, but yeah, I looked at that this afternoon as well. So I'll get with GIS and make sure we update the municipal layers on this map.
So this map that we're working off of is
The
no
printed
longer
one is
current.
definitely
Right.
not. So we'll make sure we get that. The municipal layer is not on this map, so we'll just see if we can get that added and take care of that.
And Pickens City just annexed some property.
They
Yeah,
did.
so
Yeah, so that's definitely.
Are we up to date on all the land that Easley is? annexed?
Yes, GIS has all of that accounted for. It's just not showing on this map.
Right.
Yeah, because like I said, when I went back and looked at these agendas, like for even this agenda tonight, revision to development areas map for District 4. It doesn't say revision to development area map District 4 in the DSO. Because I don't think we're amending it yet, so, but we can talk about that another time. Okay, any other questions about that? We're gonna get an answer from you tomorrow for sure.
For sure.
But let me just ask, Mr. Lang, your goal is just to completely get rid of the entire community center area.
In my district, yeah. I've gotten a lot of requests
That's all it is.
to
Just your
lessen the
district?
density.
Okay.
From my constituents, yes.
And that's something we actually didn't put into the DSO committee, so that's gonna be something, it's such an easy change that the county council probably could just handle that.
Well, I argue it's not an easy change because when people need to live somewhere, if you continue to take away places where they live from one section, you need to give them places where they can live in another section. So if you completely change part of the county into less dense, in theory, so that people can live here, more the county becomes more dense somewhere else. So we're slashing part of the dark green because Central annexed it, because that's what the cities are doing because they want to be more dense. And then you get rid of a whole section of this other one. We've continued to eliminate any options for affordable housing that is not big country sprawl. It affects everybody else's district. So I do not think it's just one counselor doing one thing in their district. I disagree with that comment.
Well, the way I see it is, well, I'm literally saying that the map in the other 5 districts is not gonna change, and that's true.
It could. Someone could realize, hey, wait, maybe we need some density so we have some homes.
But that's not what his goal is, nor was his motion. His was to change District 4 only. Nobody else made a motion to change anything else. It's focusing on District 4 now. Relatively speaking, you're saying that, but in an absolute sense, there's no change to the rest of the map. You don't have to vote for it, but I mean, I'm just saying, I don't see it changing anything else in the rest of the map. And I don't think we could, because that was not what the motion was. All right, so I think what we'll do is we'll get an answer from you, and then we'll probably look at this again on the 17th and go from there. Next item is going to be C3. This is a request regarding the Bluffs of K development. Councilor Dale Holloway, this was a goal of yours.
Yes, I had stated we'd like to revisit some aspects or a few aspects of the unit. So to look at some potential balancing of growth. We have a massive amount of growth in District Number 6, and especially in the area of the K Drive around the Bluffs of K. We've been contacted, and there are multiple individuals has some issues that they brought to our attention. So we'd like to look at a few things to see going forward, could we make this a smoother transition and easier ride for everybody involved, basically.
Going forward, okay. Any comments on that? That's going to be something that's going to be in the committee, and that committee is Councilor Linville, myself, and Councilor Holloway at the DSO committee. We'll have to schedule a meeting for that. We can probably do that tonight. We're all here, schedule something and get started on that. The only thing I would add is I think it would be important to invite the person who actually wrote those 9 recommendations. I don't know who it was, but invite him, get his point of view and explanation.
Sure.
The only thing for me is to keep in mind this list came out of the K Drive subdivision, which was approved before the change in that map. And I went back and looked at that was approved in 2022. And that was before the change in the map of late 2023. Just to show you how much the map has changed things. On 17.5 acres, they're putting 151 homes. That's the old rule. Now, under the new rule, they would only be able to put a maximum of 35. That's the difference. How much that map has changed it. So I didn't really look at all the details of the 9 points, but the new map isn't nearly as dense as the old rules. So I don't know if they're trying to fight density with those new rules or not, but the density's been cut substantially.
It's It's not really about density, it's about noise and disruption.
Yeah, it's about the implementation of and building of a subdivision. Is that what it was about? Pretty much?
For the most part.
I just looked at that. That was a big difference. Okay. All right. So Mr. Holloway, you'll be working with
Yes.
planning on that, and you'll be working with that committee as well. Okay. Next item up is C4. Again, it's going to be Mr. Holloway. It's going to be address noise, traffic, and trespassing issues as relating to concert venues. Mr. Holloway, what do you got on that?
Yes, as all of you are aware that we've had several issues around the concert venue. I have reached out to the sheriff as well as Mr. Gibson. Several steps have been put in place to mitigate some of these problems. I'm proud to say that we actually have made some progress, and there's a marked difference of improved conditions around the concert venue. We still have a ways to go, and we're going to be exploring different areas as far, especially as the noise. We got some of the traffic issues worked out. But Ms. Fowler, I had a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
If you don't mind. On page 20 of 40 there, planning staff recommendation. The paragraph starts out, at present. My first question is, it says, we will not be enforcing or be the enforcing agency. Now, is that a statement at present, or will at some point in the ballgame, y'all become the enforcing agent? Will this all be?
So keep in mind what's in your packet is where this last was discussed in 2017. So that present comment is from 2017.
Okay.
However, planning staff would not enforce a standalone noise ordinance. That would be in Unicode as a standalone ordinance. So we would definitely want Sheriff's Office involved in that conversation because they would likely be the enforcing agency.
Okay.
We wouldn't have the ability to send anyone out, after hours because the decibels are loud. Our planning staff is just not certified for that.
Okay. All right. The second question, of course, is once again, it's coming from the same paragraph. It's made so this level of comfort.
Wait, I'm sorry to interrupt. Which document are you working on?
He's on page 20 of the packet.
Page 20.
The noise new draft or the proposed outdoor?
The noise draft.
Okay, thank you.
Again, from 2017.
Yeah, like I say, this is a dated one, but I'm just trying to build in my mind some concepts. It has a level of comfort, speaking basically to volume level, or we're talking about dBs, decibels. And do we start that decibel count number where people just get uncomfortable? Is there a number out there that's already in play in other jurisdictions that we can work off of? Is that somewhere in our documentation?
I think in this case, the level of comfort reference was specifically with what the Sheriff's Office is comfortable enforcing.
Oh, okay.
And not a noise level, but yes, I'm sure there are industry standards out there that we would follow for recommendation.
On your new draft, there's a time of day and the decibels allowed.
Okay.
During what time it is.
Okay.
On the last page of the one called Noise New Draft V1. That's what y'all wrote, right, Alice?
No, we haven't written anything.
Then where did Noise New Draft come from?
I think they're all from 2017. I don't even see noise.
It's part of the agenda packet. It starts with Article 3 Noise, Section 1935.
Oh, yeah. That's from the same time frame.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was under the impression that's what y'all was presenting.
Yeah, no, we have not written anything. Everything we provided is where last was
This
discussed.
was past discussions.
Yeah.
Okay, but sorry to interrupt. I did want you to know that they did clarify some
Okay.
decibels at some point.
Yes, but I do think that is a standard we would follow.
That's all I have.
All right, any questions, discussion on that item?
My question on that was this draft from 2017 that starts with Article 3 Noise doesn't talk at all about special events. But so it looks like, I wasn't here in 2017 in council to follow this, but it looks like they had the noise draft and then they tried to add a concept of an outdoor event ordinance on top of the other noise draft.
Right. In fact, I think the noise draft specifically exempts outdoor events.
Yes, and
From the language.
right.
I think in an effort to further regulate them as a standalone.
So,
Okay,
so
and
you're gonna do both. So you're recommending revising, what is it, 904, which is the noise ordinance? And then you're gonna recommend a standalone concert venue that.
So I don't believe a noise ordinance would belong in the UDSO.
So what is section 904 then?
That's with commercial use noise. So
Okay,
post-construction, any commercial or industrial use, it follows that noise ordinance.
okay, so that's just commercial. Okay,
Right.
so you wouldn't.
So if we want to look at construction noise, potentially that could go in the UDSO. But again, that's post-planning involvement. That's where building codes comes in. So I think a basic noise ordinance would be outside of the UDSO, but a special event ordinance would have a place there because that is something we would permit.
So what do you recommend? You're recommending?
I think we wanted to hear more from council on what is the ultimate goal here, so we know what to provide. Do we want both, or are we looking specifically
That's a
at
good
special
point.
events?
Let's go down the line. I mean, I'll start, just throw the arrows at me. I think more and more people are complaining about noise, and we don't have a noise ordinance. Now, enforcement is gonna be difficult, but I mean, if it's feasible, then I would think there should be some kind of noise ordinance. Now, the concert venue ordinance, I don't know. I mean, that's not an issue in my district. I'm not opposed to it, but that's how I feel.
I don't know how far of a reach you can actually legally have. And I think the sheriff's office is gonna be a big part of, if they don't wanna do it,
Right,
And there's nobody
exactly.
to
I
enforce
don't
it.
want to do anything without their.
yeah, this is going to have to be a hand-in-hand thing with the sheriff's office as well.
I
So,
think currently they issue citations on breach of peace if there's excessive noise, but there's nothing else
so the
specific.
question is, do you want just a noise ordinance, a concert venue ordinance, or, and a noise ordinance, one or the other? So Council Limbo, what do you think?
First, if we go back to what we just reviewed before, the complaints from K Drive, they have complained regularly about the construction starting before 6 in the morning. So you said that in the UDSO could have construction hours. I think that's a reasonable thing to put one line of basic hours of construction noise, because that is super disruptive, and something that we should be able to enforce. So that to me is one issue. What comes to mind when we talked about an event ordinance is that you then have to have a form to fill out, someone to review the form. There's a $100 fee on this. So my wedding was shut down because of a noise ordinance, because I was in a city that didn't have one, but 2 cities next to them did, and it was this whole thing. But the reason it got shut down is because there was no noise, there was no special event rule for us to get protected. So when you couldn't get protected, then you could get shut down. So that's another story. But my point being, if we're going the way of event ordinances, this becomes a staff member who has to review it, a form, someone to collect payments in some way. What kind of timing do you have on them? Are we starting to say weddings, loud charity events, county fairs? Do all of these all start needing event ordinances? So I don't know if we wanted to go that direction. I think a lot of that's on where you want to go with this, Mr. Holloway, but I think you don't call it a concert ordinance, you call it an event ordinance. And that's going to allow, this also talks about disruption. That gives you permission to be outside of our other rules and gives you a little bit of protection for it as long as you follow XYZ parameters. That's a whole different project to me than whether or not you should be able to do construction at 6 in the morning.
It's two different things.
So it's 2 different things.
Well, actually, the one we already have an ordinance for it. I don't know if it covered 6 o'clock. Well, what does the 904 say about construction?
So that's all post-construction. So
We don't have anything.
it explicitly excludes construction.
When the business
Oh,
is done and
I got you. So
operating.
maybe it needs to be brought to include instruction. Is that construction? Is that what you're arguing?
No, that she said that's actually within the parameters of the UDSO could have a line about construction noise.
But it would have to be existing construction, right? Because right now it's after construction, right? That's what 904 says. Didn't you just say that to me?
Right.
Yeah, so it's right.
It's when a
construct. We would have
commercial
to-
operation is open and running, how much noise does.
So now she's talking about K Drive, that's during the construction. We
Right.
don't have that in 904.
We don't have that.
Okay, yeah.
So is that just a line that we need to add into 904?
We can add it. We would want to do some research. I know there's certain construction activities that have to happen outside of normal business hours, like concrete pouring. And those do have,
Yeah.
backup beeping trucks that are really loud in the middle of the night. So there will be exceptions that we need to make sure we include. But we can do some research.
That's one of the points that K Drive mentioned.
Yes.
Okay, so that's going to get covered in that committee. Okay, good.
There's all kind of uncontrollable timeframes in construction.
Right.
Okay,
I
Kathy.
guess my point, I just would like to hear from the sheriff's office how many issues they have with events to see if it's worth having this entire event process.
Well, the thing is, you're on the DSO committee, so you'll be right in there.
Super.
Okay, so Council Bowers, what's your take on just a noise ordinance by itself, or just a concert venue ordinance for both?
Just like in 2017, it is a rough place to be, I believe, in protecting quality of life for everybody and ensuring that nuisances aren't a problem. I'm thinking back, jake breaks, concerts, horns, race cars, people working on their cars. These are all noise complaints that have been brought before our council. And with that, reasonableness should win and typically does. But, history shows us that freedom is often diminished one regulation at a time, giving up one right to your property at a time. And that's where the balance came into place in 2017, and that's kind of where I'm at now. We have one concert venue that is not in a municipality, and I have questions on whether or not what it looked like when it went through planning, what processes have already been taken, and are we trying to go back on that? I do have questions about that. I don't think this is the right time for me to ask those, but I do have questions there. And I think that there's a balance that we have to find. I don't think there's a blanket. I don't think it's as easy as it sounds. Nuisance is, I think, the word that we have to focus on, because a nuisance is a nuisance. But it's not as easy. For me, it's not as easy because taking away freedoms is something that I'm very leery of.
All right, Council Lang.
Well, I kind of follow along with what Councilor Bauer said there. We got to be very careful because you're getting into subjectivity. And what my opinion of is a nuisance is probably not going to be what your opinion of it or anybody else's opinion of a nuisance. So we've got to be very careful on how we want to regulate this.
Okay, Council Holloway, get your work cut out. It sounds like you got to come to, look at your goal and work with that, work out with that committee, and then you have to have 4 votes or majority vote to pass something new. So, good luck on that. Okay, next up is going to be C5, and this is going to be it's an outline for potential path to county zoning. That's Council Linville's goal. What do you got for us?
Okay, the main thing I'm looking for here is to work with staff. So the main thing is on the concept of zoning districts, they have to, by law, follow our comprehensive plan. So what I'm interested in knowing here is recommendation, is basically to see what would a process look like if we wanted to take the county into partial zoning. That's come up a bunch this year, and there's been some, that will take forever, it will take lawyers and consulting firms, it will cost us money. What I'd like to see is what exactly would that process look like? So, for example, you can have zones that for historic, industrial, residential, environmentally protected, agriculture, broad strokes, what types of zones fit our comprehensive plan that may be worth taking the time to draw out in the county? What is the process for doing that? Is there public hearing requirements? Do we need to hire a specialized lawyer? Would we need to bring in any consultants to do this? Is there a cost to the county to do this? And what would a general time frame be? I'm not looking to go through every single parcel and give it, it's one of 12 zones. I don't know the rest of the council, I was personally looking much more broad stroke for a concept of, as I said, potentially historic, industrial, residential, environmental, and agriculture. There's also some weird stuff on like where we want development to go and other things. I'm not sure we want to get that granular. But I am open to recommendations from y'all on what you think. I know we've had constituents wanting to protect agricultural land. Is that something we should do at this time or not? Is it just better to go over our industrial park and say that's industrial and we know we don't want protect residential? I look for recommendations on that, as well as a kind of a timeline, sort of this would happen, then this, and here's where you would need to involve the public, and here's where you would need to vote, so that we have an understanding before we start this process, if we start this process, of what it would entail. That's my request.
Okay, any questions about that?
Historically speaking, people have been very resistant to zoning.
So true.
And I'm not worried either myself, but are you, I'm guessing by what you just said, you're looking more to model like Oconee County has with districts and not specific parcel zoning.
Exactly, yes. I'm looking for like a very broad paintbrush of general, where we're keeping industrial, where we're keeping rural, where we think historic. These terms have come up, maybe even agricultural terms have come up where people say, I want this to stay like it is. To do that, you need zoning. These difficult conversations we've had with overlay districts would be a lot easier if we had zoning. Stuff about solar panels, which you were just talking about, you can dictate where they go and say they can only be in industrial districts or they can only be in agriculture, but only if you already have those. If not, they could go anywhere, or just like anything else we have. So right now we're still kind of the Wild West and where anybody can build anything because we don't have any kind of zoning. So I'm looking for very broad stroke definitions here, not house by house.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not sure this will pass. I understand. When I first started, I was told the Z word should never be stated. We had a member of staff threatened with lynching for mentioning it once in a public meeting. I understand this is not that it was taboo, but I've actually been listening to people over the past year keep asking for these kind of protections, and you can't get those protections until you name them. So I just want to know what the process would be.
Okay, yeah, so zoning is actually, the first place you would look would be in 6-29, Article 5. That's the state zoning. That's where it all starts. So basically what happens is there's a comprehensive plan that's got an element in it called land use. That's Chapter 5. That's where everything starts with plan. Then it goes down to 6-29, which is Title 6, Chapter 29. And in that, I believe you have two choices. You can do zoning, which is Article 5, or you can just do land use, which is Article 7. And then from that, in there it says you can create your own, county governments create their own process on how they deal with land use applications, how they deal with the zoning and things like that. And a lot of that is in Chapter 12 of the DSO. So that's the way it kind of flows there. The zoning is difficult because most people, and it took me a while to understand that land use and zoning are really two different things. Land use is just the overall use of land. It could be tools like a right of way. It could be tools like an overlay. Zoning is one tool of land use. But so Highway 11 would be, for example, it's a good example. Let's say you had a whole area of Highway 11, you had an overlay, plus or minus 1,000 feet. You said residential only. That's an overlay. What zoning would do is look at every parcel and give it a category of industrial only, commercial only, residential multifamily, mixed use, or no zone.
I don't think you have to do every parcel.
No, but the thing is, when you do something as no zone, you're giving it a label. That's a label. Now, you have to go through and say, okay, we're not going to zone this. It's no zone. But you're looking at the parcel, or you can call the whole area. So in a sense, you have to look at everything. So that's what Highway 11 would look. If Highway 11 was zoned, it would be, this parcel would be residential, this would be commercial, these in the back here would be industrial. I don't think people want that fine-tuned amount of reach into their property ownership. That's why I've been opposed to it, and also it's going to be quite lengthy to do, in my opinion. So, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with the pathway. I think a flow chart like this, whoever created this chart, did you did?
Mhm.
Yeah, this is great. This is how kind of like a bill becomes a law. When you look at the planning commission, when they actually get an application for land use, the planning commission is actually just step 3 of 8 steps. And this shows you that, which I thought was real helpful. And that's what you could do. I mean, yours would be a little bit more lengthy because you want more interest. You can come up with something like that and work together with Council Linville and staff and come up with something like that and then bring it to the DSO committee, this is one of the items. I think that would be great. That's a great idea. That's a goal of yours.
Sydney's already reached out to ACOG to have an initial discussion about some of those questions.
That's what needs to be
Great.
done. So,
Good use of ACOG, thank you.
okay. Any other questions about item C5?
I do have one more thing, and I agree with Councilor Powers. Every freedom we give up. Here's the thing. I want people to have their property rights. I want you to be able to do what you want to on your land. And then we're doing this lake overlay, which has really gotten morphed out of what I wanted it to be as far as the discussions. We don't have anything on paper yet. But it's just it's a double-edged sword. The people you're trying to protect, you'll also hurt, and that in some cases, and I have heartburn on that.
Okay. Any other questions about item C5? Okay, so we're going to move on to executive session item 3, and I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session for 2 items. Item A is going to be legal advice related to pending litigation, and then legal advice related to lake overlay. So I'll make a motion to do that. Right here, a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, we're going to break about 10 minutes. So I know some of you are here to talk with us. This is a great time to talk with us, and then we're going to go into executive session. So those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same sign. That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, Ms. Dennis.
All right, yeah.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Oops.
All
right.
2 hours. Ready?
Yeah. For the long meetings. Well, there's chocolate over here.
Okay, we are live.
Okay, and we're back in session after executive session. We've got 2 items. The first item was legal advice related to pending litigation. There's no action. Second item was legal advice relating to the old. There's no action.
Motion to adjourn.
That's that. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, same